In a world where AI can generate any chart in seconds, knowing why you chose a visualization is way more important than knowing how to code one. And choosing the right visual will give you instantly better insights. In this video, we'll walk through insights from a real data set and go over how you can choose the right visualization for the story that you are trying to tell. So first, let's guide this process with 3 questions. For each visualization decision, we can ask ourselves, what type of data is being analyzed? Is it categorical or numeric? If it's numeric, is it continuous or discrete? What type of question is being answered? Are we comparing categories? Are we showing trends over time? Are we understanding distributions, etc.? Finally, what is the main takeaway of the visualization? Do we need annotations, callouts, or extra emphasis to make our point? So here is the data set that we'll explore. It has information about different marketing campaigns, like where the ad was run, what topics they were about, and their click-through and conversion rates. The overarching question we want to answer here is, what factors are related to higher conversion rates? First, let's look at the distribution of our conversion rates. Are higher conversion rates rare, or is the distribution skewed lower or higher? Going back to our 3 questions, we want to analyze continuous numeric data, and the question we're answering is a distribution question. So the best type of chart for this is either a histogram or a box plot. But since we want to visualize the shape of our data to see if it's skewed higher or lower, a histogram would be the best option here. Now, when we think about the main takeaway, we do want to highlight what the mean and median of this distribution is. So adding a line for both of those stats would be very helpful here. It would also be good to show where the top 25% of conversion rates lie. So in our data set, the top 25% of conversion rates are above 27.5%. So highlighting that on the chart would make our point even more effective as well. Overall, people tend to notice visual cues, so it's always good to use colors to highlight key areas. Now that we know what our baseline conversion rate generally is, let's see if the average conversion rate differs by ad topic. So when we just look at the data, we see that the food ad topic has the highest conversion rate. And when comparing to the average conversion rate across all ad topics, it's slightly higher than average. So how would we make this point in a visualization? Well, we are visualizing categorical data, our ad topic, by discrete numeric data, our average conversion rate. This means that we can use something like a bar chart, a pie chart, or a box plot. However, the question we're trying to answer involves comparing different categories. So the best visualization for this task is a bar chart. So here is our preliminary bar chart. But now when we're looking at what the main takeaway of our visualization is, we want to show that the food ad topic has the highest conversion rate. So it would be good to highlight that in some way. And one way we can do that is by making that bar a different color from all the rest, so that the viewer's eye is drawn there first. We also want to highlight that that conversion rate is slightly higher than the average overall conversion rate. So it would be good to add in a line for average conversion rate as well, so that the viewer can see that the food ad topic's conversion rate is slightly above that. So in summary here, bars are perfect for comparing categories, and a simple highlight or line can really make your insight pop. Next, let's drill into the food ad topic a little bit more. We want to see if there is a difference in the number of impressions by placement channel and by ad type. Ad type just indicates if the ad was like a video or a banner, and then the placement channel shows where it was showed. Now, this visualization is going to be a little bit more complex because there's 3 dimensions we want to visualize instead of just 2, but our 3 questions will still help us here. So we want to visualize 2 categorical variables, our ad type and our placement channel, and 1 numeric discrete variable, which is our count of ad impressions. So once again, we are comparing categories just like before. However, this time we also want to compare proportions between different variables. So we will use a bar chart for comparing categories, but more specifically, we'll use a stacked bar chart so we can compare categories and compare proportions within each bar. Now, what is the main takeaway? Well, here you can see that the number of ad impressions is pretty similar across the different placement channels. And within each bar, you can see that the proportion of impressions is pretty equal across the different ad types. So we want to call that out in some way. We can already see that from the shape of the bars, but it could be helpful to add in annotations of the actual percentages of impressions by ad type. So we'll add that in. And we can also add in a call out box that it doesn't seem like there's any channel specific strategy that's outperforming the others in terms of number of impressions. So when we add that in, here you can see that annotations help viewers absorb complex data quickly. Next, let's look to see if conversion rates vary by placement channel throughout the year. So here we want to visualize continuous numeric data, which is our conversion rates. We also want to visualize date data, like the time and the date of the conversion rate. And we also have an additional categorical variable, which is our placement channel. And we're answering a trends over time question. And for a trends over time question, a line chart is usually the best option. So when we look at this chart, what's our main takeaway? Well, here we can see that the placement channels seem to perform about the same over time, and that there's no real upward trend for any of them, but there are occasional spikes in the social media placement. So we can highlight that a little bit more by adding shading around the average conversion rate to really emphasize that there's no upward trend. And we can annotate some of those spikes to kind of draw attention to them as well. So here's the final chart, and you can see that shading and callouts really help guide the viewer's attention to the story. Finally, let's look at how income and conversion rate are related. In other words, is higher income correlated with higher conversion rates? And we'll look at this specifically for food ads. Here we want to visualize a continuous numeric variable, conversion rates, by another continuous numeric variable, income. And we want to see the relationship between two variables. We want to see if they're correlated in any way. So for this use case, a scatter plot is the best option. So here's our chart, and you can see the main takeaway here is that there really is no relationship between conversion rate and income. We can really drive that point home by adding a trend line to this chart as well. So scatter plots are perfect for spotting patterns or confirming that none exist. Now it's time for a speed round of bonus charts. The charts that I've already mentioned are the ones that you'll use the most when you're analyzing data, but you may see the following charts as well. The first is a box plot. This is useful for comparing the median, quartiles, outliers, and spread of data across different categories. For example, this would be a good chart type to use to visualize average conversion rates across different placements. Now, I did mention the box plot earlier when we wanted to look at the distribution of our conversion rates. We were able to use either a histogram or a box plot. For that use case, we wanted to really look at the shape of our data, so a histogram was a better option there. The next chart type is a heat map. This is generally used for visualizing correlations between variables, but you'll also see it used to visualize density. For example, if you wanted to see which day of the week had the highest number of clicks, a heat map would be a great option to visualize that. And finally, area charts. These charts are like line charts and bar charts combined. They show the trend of how a cumulative total changes over time. So you could use this to show the cumulative number of ad clicks over time. All right, so those are the main chart types that are generally used for data analysis, along with a set of questions that you can use to help you decide which chart is the right one to tell your data story. Here's a complete cheat sheet of the visualization types and when to use each one. Once you decide which visualization you want to use, you can code it using a Python library like matplotlib or Seaborn, or my personal favorite, Plotly. And AI can write this code for you, but if you want to learn how to write the code yourself as well, I actually have a matplotlib and a Seaborn tutorial, so you can check those out next if you're interested. I'd also be interested in knowing, are there any chart types that you actually use quite a bit that I didn't mention here? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.